The day his wife signed the divorce papers. She didn't cry. She didn't beg. She didn't even look angry. She simply smiled. And that smile terrified him. Because after 10 years of marriage, Io expected tears. What he got instead would destroy everything he thought he knew. Io stared across the lawyer's office in Victoria Island, Lagos. The divorce papers sat between them. 10 years. Gone. Just like that. The lawyer slid the final page toward Kimi. "Madam, this is the last signature." Io folded his arms. He had imagined this moment many times. Maybe she would cry. Maybe she would plead. Maybe she would finally admit she needed him. Instead, Kimi adjusted her glasses and calmly signed her name. No tears. No argument. Nothing. Then she stood up. "Is that all?" The lawyer nodded. And before leaving, she looked directly at Io. "Take care of yourself." Then she walked away. Io felt strangely unsettled. Something wasn't right. Because for months, Kimi had fought desperately to save the marriage. She suggested counseling. She suggested church intervention. She even asked both families to mediate. But Io had already made up his mind. He wanted freedom. Freedom from what he called a boring marriage. At 42, he had become successful. His logistics company was growing. Money was flowing. Instagram followers were increasing. Young women suddenly laughed at all his jokes. Life felt exciting again. And compared to that excitement, Kimi felt ordinary. At least that's what he believed. 3 days later, he moved into a luxury apartment in Lekki. His younger girlfriend, Anita, practically moved in with him. Friends congratulated him. Chairman Don finally enjoy life. See fresh babe. You too smart. Io laughed. For the first time in years, he felt young. Or so he thought. Meanwhile, something unusual was happening. Kimi disappeared. Not physically. Digitally. She stopped posting. Stopped replying people. Stopped attending social gatherings. Even mutual friends couldn't reach her. At first, nobody cared. Then rumors started. Maybe she's depressed. Maybe she traveled. Maybe divorce don't affect her. Io secretly enjoyed the speculation. After all, it confirmed what he believed. She couldn't survive without him. Then one evening, everything changed. Io was scrolling through LinkedIn when a post appeared. His heart nearly stopped. The post showed Kimi standing in front of a massive office building in London. The caption read, "Excited to announce my appointment as Regional Director for West Africa and Europe." Over 12,000 reactions. Thousands. Io blinked repeatedly. Regional Director? Europe? London? What was this? He immediately clicked her profile. And that's when he saw it. Over the past year, while he was busy chasing younger women and nightlife, Kimi had quietly earned international certifications, completed executive leadership programs, built connections across multiple countries, applied for positions globally, and somehow, she landed one of the biggest opportunities of her life. Without telling him. Without needing him. Without waiting for his approval. For the first time since the divorce, Io felt nervous. That night, he called her. She didn't answer. He called again. Nothing. A text message followed. "Congratulations." No response. Minutes later, another message appeared. But it wasn't what he expected. "Thank you." Just 2 words. Cold. Polite. Distant. Like he was a stranger. And strangely, that hurt more than anger. Weeks passed. Then months. Kimi relocated to London. Her career exploded. Industry magazines featured her. Business podcasts interviewed her. People celebrated her story. A woman who rebuilt her life after heartbreak. A woman who refused to become a victim. A woman who chose herself. Back in Lagos, Io's perfect new life was beginning to crack. Because Anita wasn't who he thought she was. At first, it was little things. Expensive gifts. Constant demands. Luxury vacations. designer bags. Then came the fights. Daily fights. Suddenly, the excitement he chased started feeling expensive. Very expensive. And one rainy night, his phone rang. The call would change everything. And reveal a secret Kimi had hidden for years. The rain hammered against the windows of Io's Lekki apartment. His phone kept vibrating. Unknown number. He almost ignored it. Then he answered. Hello. A woman's voice spoke. Good evening, Mr. Io. Who's this? My name is Mrs. Williams. I work with St. Catherine Medical Center. Io frowned. Okay. There was a brief silence. Then the woman asked a question that made his chest tighten. Sir, were you once listed as the emergency contact for Mrs. Kimi Adebayo? Io sat upright. Yes. Why? The next words hit him like a truck. Mrs. Kimi was involved in an accident this evening in London. Everything around him went quiet. What? She is stable, sir. Please don't panic. Stable. Thank God. But his heart was already racing. The woman continued. She requested that we contact you. Io couldn't speak. Out of everyone in the world, she still remembered his number. Even after everything. After the divorce. After the betrayal. After he walked away. For several seconds, he simply stared at the rain. Then something unexpected happened. A feeling he hadn't experienced in years. Fear. Real fear. The fear of losing someone who once knew every version of him. The ambitious young graduate. The struggling entrepreneur. The man who couldn't afford rent. The husband who dreamed of building an empire. Kimi had seen all of it. And suddenly, he realized nobody else had. Not Anita. Not his business partners. Not his social media friends. Nobody. That night, he barely slept. The next morning, he booked the earliest flight to London. For the first time in years. He wasn't chasing money. He wasn't chasing status. He was chasing closure. Or maybe something else. Even he didn't know. When Io arrived at the hospital, Kimi looked different. Not weak. Not broken. Different. Stronger. More confident. The kind of confidence that comes from surviving pain alone. When she saw him, she smiled softly. You came. Io nodded. Of course. Neither spoke for a moment. Years of memories filled the silence. Then Kimi laughed. A small laugh. I didn't think you'd actually come. Io looked away. I didn't think you'd call me. The smile on her face faded. And for the first time, the walls between them began to crack. Over the next few days, he visited often. They talked. Not about the marriage. Not yet. About life. About London. About Lagos. About old memories. For the first time in years. There was no fighting. No blame. No shouting. Just two people remembering who they used to be. Then one afternoon, everything changed. A doctor entered the room carrying a file. He greeted them and left after discussing her recovery. But as he walked out, a document slipped from the folder. Io picked it up. His eyes moved across the page. Then stopped. His blood froze. The date on the document was 4 years old. 4 years. He looked at Kimi. Then back at the paper. Then back at her again. Kimi. Her face immediately changed. She knew. She knew exactly what he had seen. Io's voice shook. What is this? Silence. Heavy silence. The kind that changes lives. Slowly, tears gathered in Kimi's eyes. The first tears he had seen from her in years. Finally, she spoke. I never wanted you to find out like this. Io felt his heartbeat pounding. Find out what? She looked out the window. At the grey London sky. Then she whispered. 4 years ago. I was diagnosed with a heart condition. Io stopped breathing. What? The words barely came out. Kimi nodded. The doctors weren't sure how serious it would become. Io stared at her. Unable to process anything. 4 years. 4 whole years. And she never told him. Never. Why? Her answer shattered him. Because you were already changing. A tear rolled down her cheek. You were building your company. You were stressed. You barely slept. You barely came home. I didn't want to become another burden. Io felt sick. Every argument. Every complaint she made. Every lonely night. Every desperate attempt to save the marriage. Suddenly made sense. And then came the final blow. The secret she had carried alone. The reason she signed the divorce papers without a tear. The reason she let him walk away. The reason she never fought at the lawyer's office. Kimi looked directly into his eyes. And quietly said, I thought I was dying, Io. The room fell silent. And for the first time since the divorce, Io realized he hadn't abandoned a boring marriage. He had abandoned a woman who was secretly fighting for her life. The words hung in the air. I thought I was dying, Io. Io couldn't move. Couldn't speak. Couldn't even look away. Every excuse he had used to justify the divorce suddenly sounded empty. Every complaint. Every argument. Every moment he blamed Kimi for changing. None of it mattered anymore. Because while he was busy searching for excitement, she had been fighting a battle he never knew existed. Alone. That night, Io sat outside the hospital for hours. London's cold wind brushed against his face. But he barely felt it. His mind kept replaying the last 4 years. The nights Kimi begged him to come home earlier. The moments she seemed exhausted. The doctor's appointments she always attended alone. The way she sometimes stared into space when she thought nobody was watching. The signs had been there. He simply never cared enough to see them. And that realization hurt more than anything. The next morning, he returned to the hospital. Kimi was awake. Reading a book. The same habit she had during their marriage. Some things never changed. Io sat beside her. For a while, neither spoke. Then he finally said it. I'm sorry. Kimi looked up. His eyes were wet. Not performative tears. Not guilt-driven tears. Real tears. The kind that come when a man finally sees himself clearly. I'm sorry for everything. Kimi closed the book. You don't owe me that. I do. No. She shook her head gently. You owe it to yourself. Io frowned. What does that mean? Kimi smiled sadly. It means you need to stop punishing yourself for a version of you that no longer exists. Those words hit differently. Because she wasn't angry. She wasn't seeking revenge. She wasn't trying to make him suffer. And somehow, that made him feel even worse. Weeks later, Kimi fully recovered. The doctors confirmed that her condition was now stable. Her treatment had worked. The future looked promising. For the first time in years. She wasn't surviving. She was living. Meanwhile, life back in Lagos continued unraveling for Io. His relationship with Anita ended spectacularly. After discovering she had been seeing another wealthy businessman, she left without warning. The luxury apartment felt empty. The parties felt meaningless. The attention he once enjoyed suddenly felt fake. And for the first time in a long time, he was alone. Truly alone. Months passed. Io returned to Nigeria. Kimi remained in London. Neither discussed getting back together. The marriage was over. That chapter had ended. But something unexpected happened. They became friends. Real friends. They spoke regularly. Shared victories. Shared struggles. Supported each other. Without expectations. Without pressure. Without the weight of old wounds. And slowly, both began to heal. Then came another twist. 1 year later, Io received an invitation. A leadership conference in London. The keynote speaker, Kimi. He almost didn't attend. But curiosity won. When she stepped onto the stage, the audience erupted into applause. Hundreds of executives, business leaders, entrepreneurs, all standing, celebrating her. Io felt pride swelling inside him. Not because she was once his wife, but because he finally understood who she truly was. A woman who rebuilt herself from heartbreak. A woman who turned pain into purpose. A woman who refused to let tragedy define her story. Then, during the question and answer session, someone asked, "What is the greatest lesson you've learned in life?" The room became silent. Kimi paused, then smiled, and answered, "Sometimes losing people saves you." The audience nodded. But she wasn't finished. Not because they're bad people. Not because you hate them. But because distance forces both of you to become who you're meant to be. Io lowered his head. Those words were meant for him. He knew it. And somehow, they brought him peace. After the event ended, they met outside. London was glowing beneath the evening lights. For a moment, neither spoke. Then Kimi smiled. The same calm smile she wore the day she signed the divorce papers. Only this time, Io understood it. It wasn't the smile of a woman who didn't care. It was the smile of a woman who had accepted reality. Who had found herself again. Who no longer needed anyone's permission to be happy. Io smiled back. "No regrets?" he asked. Kimi looked toward the city skyline. Then answered softly, "I regret the pain." She paused. But not the journey. And as they walked in opposite directions beneath the London lights, both finally understood something most people never learn. Sometimes the greatest heartbreak of your life becomes the reason you finally discover who you are.